Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us this evening and coming out to support the Waterford Public Library. My name is Jill Adams and I'm Head of Adult Services here and I do all the programming. Just a reminder that our library fair is this Saturday from 10 to 2. And of course, the reason why you're here tonight is it's our 100th anniversary. So 10 to 2, and unfortunately due to the weather, it's going to be moved indoors. It's going to be inside the building here as well as across the street at the community center. So I hope you can still stop by and support the library. All the activities and performances, but the activities for the children, I believe, will be across the street at the community center. We're going to have a concert in this room, a performance at 2 o'clock, and we'll also have a Nickelodeon, the Nickelodeon barbershop quartet that will be just singing and going around the grounds, the inside grounds, not outside. Our 100th anniversary program brochure is on the back table with all the events for the next 2 weeks, if you can pick one up on your way out. I also have out over there the May adult programs and activities. It's the purple sheet. And right now I'd like to introduce our board president, Mr. Aaron Rosenberg.
Thank you, Jill. On behalf of the Board of Trustees of the Waterford Public Library, I want to welcome you all here as we are celebrating our, can you believe it, our 100th anniversary. That's pretty remarkable. And how fortunate we are to be in a town that values and supports its library, as does Waterford. And we are the envy of the region, I think. We're grateful to those handful of Waterford citizens who gathered back in 1923 to create a library, and it's evolved through the decades, as we'll hear shortly. I can't help but wonder, what would those people think if they were to come here today and to see this beautiful edifice with our warm, helpful, friendly staff and the extensive collection of books and materials and even computers, as well as our online programming where you can get movies and audiobooks and ebooks and follow lectures. And we have wonderful programs as well that you can be in person, such as this, or online. We are very fortunate. I would be remiss if I didn't make a pitch for the Centennial Drive that we're engaged in. We're hoping that 100 households or individuals within Waterford might want to make a donation of $100 in honor of the 100 years. And that would enable us to make this library even better, if you can imagine that. So if you're interested, if you're so interested, there are envelopes in the back on that poster board. All you need to do is fill it out and send it in. And by the way, there's going to be a poster put up somewhere of acknowledging all the donors who enabled us to do that. So without any further ado, for a person who certainly needs no introduction, Bob Nye, our historian, is going to tell us all about the last 100 years. Bob?
Thank you, Aaron. Welcome. First, I would like to thank Chris Johnson and library director and her staff. Specifically, a big help to me was Gail Miller, Lauren O'Neill. Lauren, by the way, is graduating this evening from Eastern. And of course, Jill Adams. Without Jill, this wouldn't be happening, and she was a huge help. From the town, I'd like to mention Bert Monton, the printer, was a big help, as well as Mark Wojtkiewicz, the town planner. And also here tonight is Pat Cry, who's the vice chair of the Historic Properties Commission, and he was of huge help as well. So, who was item A? I know at least one of you know. Go for it.
Well, I met her when I was 6 years old.
my mother brought me down to the library, which was over on Great Neck Road at the time, and, you know, introduced me and got me a card. However, I have to say, we certainly did not call her Miss Ida. Absolutely not. She was Miss Harwood. And you know, when you were in the library, you didn't walk with your shoes. I mean, you tippy-toed and you whispered. And even then, if she caught you whispering, she'd be saying, shh.
Gloria Pontius, thank you so much. Actually, I want to start out first with a little bit of context, a brief look at Waterford a century ago. We can't go too deeply, obviously. Talk a little bit about the schools, because the schools were kind of a parallel development along with the library, separate, but a lot of things were happening with both at the same time. Also, a little bit about some of the early transportation. It's interesting that for the first 100 years, 1810 to 1910, population growth 42%. That's over a century. So Waterford was pretty slow growing, which a lot of rural towns in Connecticut were. So many of the children, it's not like families weren't having kids, but the kids were going west for opportunity. So in this early period, the first or the second decade of the century, you're beginning to get school consolidation. You're starting to get rid of some of these smaller 1- and 2-room schools. Jordan in 1911 was the first, followed very soon thereafter in 1915. The Cohansey School was a really, truly major accomplishment that took over the old Lakes Pond School, the Peter Baker School, the Gilead School, and the Cohansey School were all consolidated in 1923 in the Cohansey School. As you can see, population is growing steadily. Transportation, of course, was important, especially as schools were getting consolidated. Kids had a long way, even further in many cases, to walk. The Shoreline trolley on the upper left between 1905 and 1924, that went bankrupt. The Montville line along Route 32, 1900 to 34, and then the early buses were these jitneys, like Fred Beckwith's Model T in the lower corner there. And a little later, as roads were starting to become paved, you were actually getting buses, like on the right. The jitneys started, in the mid-teens, actually during World War I. I can't imagine Fred Beckwith, who ran between New London and Niantic, I can't imagine him going up the old Logger Hill Road. If you're familiar with that road at all, I mean, it probably would have been faster to walk. And the trolleys, real estate development followed very quickly after. These are a couple of what have been referred to as trolley car subdivisions. In other words, they were created because of the better transportation. As Bob Bachman said in his book, rural Waterford was on track to becoming a suburb. And Thames View is up off of the old Norwich Road. That's Fitzgerald Avenue across the top there. Morningside Park is all that off of Clark Lane, Louise and Vivian and all those little streets. And people could move out here, more than likely, a lot of them from New London, but still go to work in New London. Those are just, by the way, just two examples of a number of them. In 1930, the population doubles for the first time, all right? Going back from 1810 to 1930, the population actually doubles. The Great Neck School in 1930 was the end of a 2-decade-long consolidation program. The Great Neck School absorbed the West Neck, which was down on Great Neck Road, and in fact on the same site as the Great Neck School. That became, after 1930, it went to the Boy Scouts, and then I think in the 50s, I believe, it was burned as a fire exercise. The Graniteville School in the middle is still with us, and that's been a Boy Scout house again since the 1930s. The East Neck School, the only construction really during that 2-decade period up to 1930 was Jordan and Quaker Hill. The Jordan School that I showed you before burned in 1918, and there was, I'll show you what that school looked like, but to that was added an addition in 1926, and of course Quaker Hill had one in 48. What did I do, Jill?
I don't know.
Push the wrong button. Maybe it's here.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Is that the next one?
That's the next one, yeah. So this is where our story begins. The Jordan School in 1918, actually, the story begins 101 years ago. In May this month, 1922, 100 years ago, a group of interested citizens, including Nettie Edwards, who was the principal of Jordan. Nettie Edwards got married a month or two later to Hugh Mackenzie. V.B. Moody, who was the school supervisor, and Marguerite Allen were among a relatively small group who met here in May of 1918, voted to form a library association. The following year, same place, in the school assembly hall, May 23rd, 1923, the Articles of Incorporation were drawn up by Judge Gallup, and the library was off and running. The association became official on June 5th in 1923. Alice Darrow, I should mention, was the first president and served of the board and served until 1944. Now, over that summer in 1923, the library began actually in the basement of the Baptist Church in Jordan Village. In the fall, in fact, they were all donated, a very small collection, donated books, and they were in the basement. And I'm assuming they went through that little door right here. I know I was in there. Patty Walters, who's here tonight, let us Pat and I in that way, and I'm pretty sure that's probably how they accessed the basement. Of course, that basement was an active place for many years. Town hall meetings were held there, elections were held there for many years. Well, in the fall, sometime September, probably 1923, there was a fire in the basement. And volunteers, fortunately, scrambled to get the books out of there and across the street to Judge Gallup's house. That's where Judge Gallup lived on North Road. And they were actually in a woodshed, they weren't stored in his house, but in the woodshed. We okay there? All right. Now, Rose Saunders lived here at 90 Rope Ferry Road. It's a familiar building. It's where Balestrini's daycare center is now. And down behind her house, way down in the back near the Jordan Brook, where it opens up, there was a carriage shed. And it's the carriage shed is that building that you can barely see on the left. It's not the house, but it's the building to the left. And as far as I know, that's the only picture we have of that carriage shed. So that opened, let's see, officially on March 1st. It took not quite a year for the library to get back on its feet again. During the winter of 23-24, there were all kinds of cake sales and teas and used book sales, raising money for shelving and alterations in that carriage shed. Furnishings were donated, and as well as more books donated. So opening day, March 1st, 1924, and there the library lived for the next 4 years, roughly. At the Library Association meeting, November 28, 1927, an announcement was made, as you can see here, of a brand new building. The question is, no site had been chosen, but it was to be donated by Anna Rumrill Hammond in memory of her parents, James Augustus Rumrill and Anna Chapin Rumrill. And that plaque is on what we call the Park House today. For years, it was in the basement, but I did some work on the building about 20 years ago and had it remounted on that building. The site, by the way, was, I should say, that there was quite a bit of discussion as to where the building would be located. Judge Gallup really wanted to see it somewhere in or near Jordan Village, more centrally located. He was concerned about the area down closer to the Nevins property because of the high water table, because a basement was a necessity for storage in the library. Ultimately, Cornelia Nevins, she was the middle girl of the three Nevins sisters, donated only a little more than a quarter of an acre on Great Neck Road for the library. It officially opened in September of 1928. And of course, there were light refreshments served. Let's see. This is going to be a little tricky, but okay, here's Great Neck Road, and you can see it splits. Okay, this is the 34 aerial. Here's Avery Lane, all right? So as you know, Great Neck Road comes out opposite Avery Lane. It didn't back then. The library is this building here, and this house here is number 3 Great Neck Road, where Jenny Hoagland lived there. Jenny was one of the early spirited members of the Library Association. And let's see, and then in here was A.J. Perkins and his wife, Rose Perkins. Their house, as you can see, what is now Jordan Terrace, was pretty much open farmland at that time, still. July 31st, 1931, the library had an endowment. The library had managed about $2,000 in the pot, so to speak, and Edward Harkness said that if by July 31st, if you can raise another $2,000, I'll match it with $12,000, which the library succeeded in doing that, and they were off and running with a $16,000 endowment. And Gloria, there's Miss Harwood. You're absolutely right. Back then, I mean, there's no way you were going to walk up to that lady and say, "Hey, Ida, how you doing?" You'll notice over the fireplace, the painting, which the library still has, that was donated, a landscape oil by Henry C. White donated that, and it's still behind the circulation desk upstairs. Well, is this something I'm doing?
No, it just times out.
Am I pushing the, see this button here? Am I pushing it? Okay, all right. Thanks for being here, by the way. God, I don't know what I'd do without her. Again, the interior of the library, what we call now the Park House. Okay. By 1958, a rather sobering assessment, the State Bureau of Library Services recommended an addition on the building, this small building. And Anna Nevins, by this time I should add that Cornelia Nevins had passed in the mid to late 1940s. Cornelia was one of the early charter members of the Library Association. At any rate, her younger sister Anna, in 1955, 1956, added some more property to that original quarter acre that the library was on in anticipation that for an addition. To continue with the assessment by the State Bureau, their assessment said that the book collection was woefully inadequate. The library of a town this size at that time should have some 36,000 volumes, and in fact had only 4,000 to 5,000 volumes, and urged that they should have 6 full-time staff. And there was, of course, Miss Ida, by the way, had retired. She, Miss Ida, was the first paid librarian. She started in 1931 and retired, I believe, just about this year, about 1958. They also, in addition to a full-time staff of 6, they recommended a branch, a library branch should accommodate the northern section of town. I should add that early on in the 20s and 30s, the library did make an effort, a solid effort, to take care of the schools, Cohansey and Quaker Hill further north, and even those little schools before Great Neck came into being, Graniteville and East Neck and West Neck and so forth. They did make an effort, a real effort to cooperate with the schools. Let's see. And as fate would have it, in January '59, the State Highway Department condemned the library because they wanted to straighten out this road, which we saw earlier, Great Neck Road. Here's Avery, and they wanted to straighten it out, and that meant the library would have to go. At the same time, Nelson White, who was active in the early years of the library, acquired roughly, was it 6 acres roughly, where this building right here, this is the library land right there. The town was able to purchase it from money from the condemnation suit by the State Highway Department. So in December '59, sale of that property would go to a new eventual library. In the meantime, where was the library going to go? There wasn't a whole lot of time left, and what were they going to do? Well, the first option that came up was the old Hall of Records, what we call the Old Town Hall or Youth Services Building, which is right here. They requested the use upstairs of the old courtroom. The court system had changed. There was no longer a local judge. The circuit court system got established, I think in late '59, early '60s. So this room became vacant. Now I show these other pictures because on the right you can see the low ceiling. Well, back when the building was built, it went all the way up. See the fan window on the outside and then the fan window on the inside, and it went all the way up to a cathedral type ceiling. So it was really quite a stunning room back in its day. Now, one main concern was there was no elevator, so you had to climb stairs. And of course, that meant the elderly would have a hard time. That was the main reason. A lesser reason, but nonetheless a little more humorous, was one of the selectmen was concerned about using this building, that because of, quote, according to the New London Day article, let's see, this is the back of the building. According to New London Day, this selectman was concerned about the abusive language from intoxicated persons brought into the police station below. Now, many of you realize that the police station, our police department didn't get started until 1958. And their office was they made a brand new door to the right that went downstairs, and the police department was down there in that basement until 1970. And of course, in 1970, it moved over to what was then the town garage, which is now, what is emergency services, I think, at any rate. So, anyway, that selectman didn't have to worry about library patrons being interfered with by intoxicated persons. So, what evolved was the town ultimately agreed to rent the old post office, which you can see here on the right. This was the post office, which is now the Jordan Village Barber Shop. That was built around 1942, I believe. And the town finally agreed that this was the best thing to do, was to rent this space. Henry Gardner, who was chair of the building committee, happened to own that building. And he was pressing the town to make up their mind because he did have a tenant who was interested in the building. So the town did agree to come up with a yearly lease situation. And it was a good thing because it was at least, once vacated, it was at least 3 times the size of the old library. So, January 61, they're going to dispose of the building. What's going to happen? Well, we don't know. Not yet. Meanwhile, the library opens in Jordan Village, the old post office building, in March of '61. Probably more than 35 volunteers labored continuously, even on Sundays. It was really quite a heroic effort, and led by Mary Elizabeth Nash. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking. The library is still, as you can see, at the Great Neck site. This is a sketch, a rendering by Roger Dennis, who did that probably, I don't know when, it's probably back in the 30s, 40s, I'm not sure. Meanwhile, Mrs. Ida White, Nelson White's wife, was having a book and white elephant sale here in March. It still hadn't been moved. Meanwhile, the clock is ticking. Nelson White talked with Mrs. Hammond's son, James, concerned as to how she might take the fact that this building could well be demolished. Mr. White said that the son took it very well, spoke on her behalf. She herself was very seriously ill and, for all practical purposes, incapacitated. I should add that she did leave. She passed, around 1965, I believe, and did leave $2,500 to the library. So, the state agrees to move the building. So it's going to be saved. Thanks to Anna Nevins, who back in 55, 52, some 52, I believe. Anna and Evans had given the town the parcel of land on the corner of Avery Lane, almost 4 acres, 3.8 acres. The time is clicking. In fact, it got to the point where the highway department had done all kinds of excavation all around the park house on Great Neck Road. And so for a while, it was kind of sitting up on this little island. And so it was close, it was close. Meanwhile, the bylaws are being updated, and in, here we go again. I think I'm hitting the, okay, whoops. So here we are in 60, 61, 2, 3, 61. This building's about to be moved. Meanwhile, during that year, the Waterford Library Association became the Waterford Public Library, Inc., and that was in 1961. Okay, here we are back with population. Schools, meanwhile, population doubled again from 1940 to 1960. And we're going to get another 2 decades of school building going on. Clark Lane, starting off with Clark Lane in 53, the high school, 57, I believe, Southwest School, 58, Oswegatchie in 65. And in addition, there were countless additions going on to other various schools as well during this time. So finally, a new library. We need a new library. The old post office had served the town well, but in, let's see, after squeaking by the Board of Finance, very close vote, very controversial, 3-2 vote, it was sent on to the RTM, which approved on January 20th, 1965, $190,000 for a new library. Keep in mind the same argument that we've heard before, spending town money, we've got schools, and you pay for, what are you going to pay for? So we were pretty lucky that this squeaked by. Meanwhile, Mr. Gardner is still chair of the building committee. Here are the elevations from the plans. Not that these are so terribly remarkable, but the entryway and here's the interior. One of the problems with this layout was the kids. The kids were making noise. They were even getting, I talked to one high school grad who graduated back in, the 70s, and she was saying she remembers being kicked out of the library because it was such an open space that it did get kind of noisy. So the library opens on February 26, 1966. And at that time, in June of '66, the library transferred to the town at an RTM meeting, Title II, the furniture, the fixtures, the equipment, the books, the whole deal to the town of Waterford. Now, I assume that's still the case?
It's
Okay.
still on the fixed assets
All right.
list, isn't it?
And as you can see, Henry Gardner was praised for his efforts as chair of the building committee. Then, within 7 years of that '66 building, an expansion program was already underway. In August of '76, 10 years later, here we have an expanded, remodeled library, effectively doubling the space, because here's, that's the old library, and this is all the new. So it just about doubled. And it's like one of the earlier librarians said, it's just seamless. It's like one would never know that there was an addition. It's as if the new part just extended, just grew out of the old part. And from the interior, I still haven't figured out what color that is, Joe. Pink or rose or salmon. That's where the old library ended. Okay, salmon sounds good? Brick. Okay. All right. And so that was a wall. That's where things ended. They were fortunate to find the same fossil rock. I believe this came out of New York State somewhere. There's quite a number of those quarries, Pennsylvania, New York State, even parts of New Jersey. And they decided to also include it behind the circulation desk, which was really a pretty nice touch. Okay. For the next 10 years, after '76, the library continued to grow in the size of its collection, circulation, the number of hours that it was open, and a variety of the materials and services offered, which Aaron gave a pretty good summary of at our start. Now, in the '76 plan was the plan for the mezzanine. All right, it was in the plan, but they just held on it until 10 years later, 1986. And I guess it was really quite a mess. Vince Giuliani was the head librarian at the time, and Vince, you were quoted in some source I read that it was just an unholy mess. That's pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate. Okay.
Not only the quote, but what the quote means.
Right.
I just want to quickly add, though,
Sure.
despite the mess, the contractors had walled off that whole area, and the staff moved the books and other materials as much as we could into public areas and stored a great deal of material in various areas of the basement. But the library, we managed to keep open that whole time.
Yep.
But you would walk through the library and you would hear incredible noises.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and
Yeah.
sometimes kind of funny smells.
Oh. Oh boy, that was pre-OSHA.
It was,
Pre-OSHA.
but the people the public and the staff were fantastic,
Yeah,
in cooperating.
that's what I read from some of the
Nice.
edits. And of course, the open house was, I think Larry Betancourt was there and cut a ribbon. I think there's a picture in the back table there of First Selectman Betancourt. And of course, for relics like me, oh, to see that beautiful oak workmanship and those nice, smooth, operating card catalog drawers, gone forever. From dinosaurs to databases, becoming extinct, card catalog. Now, apparently, I read the library got involved with computers as early as 1971. I don't know, I don't have any idea of what they were used for or what capacity, but the library's certainly been involved with computers ever since. Simply hasn't let up. Who's going to know next week or next month what we have? But the logo in the upper left-hand corner, Waterford Public Library, Discovery Begins Here, that was designed 10 years ago, and it was it's the town's really first logo, and it certainly couldn't be more appropriate for this amazing institution, and we should be proud. Thank you. That's it. Questions or comments? I guess we have a little bit of time. Stories to share or comments, questions?
I have
Yes.
a question. I recently did the school visits over at the Jordan Green, and everyone kept asking the children, are there any pictures of the physical moving of the Jordan Park House Library? No, there aren't.
Not that,
Yeah. It's interesting.
I've never
No one
come
took a
across.
picture, yeah.
Any. Someone was asking before the program, what did it look like when it was on Great Neck Road? And all I ever saw was just close-ups of the building that it could have been where it is now. So it didn't show any context.
I'm just curious, Bob, why, when we had quarries all over the place, why did they choose to go out of the state to get their stone work?
Well, the quarries here were granite. That fossil stone is really, gotta admit, it's pretty exotic. It's pretty neat. The granite, at least, let's see, we're talking 1960s. The quarries weren't any operating quarries at that time. I mean, the granite industry in this town pretty much, well, during the Depression, it pretty much faded. You had, even before then, you had concrete, Portland cement. Look at Harkness, it's, why isn't Aeolia made out of granite, It's made out of cement blocks. Anyone else? Yes?
Not that it really matters. The high school opened in '56.
Oh, opened in '56? Thank you. Well, the picture, I guess, was '57, I think, but thank you. First graduating class was '61.
1960.
1960? First graduating class, Waterford High? I always heard that it was '61. Okay, thank you for that.
60, 61, and 62 opened in '56.
Okay,
We had 3 classes for like 5 years.
okay. Yeah, I remember there was some kind of between, what, Clark Lane and the high school, and, yeah, I never did quite sort all that out. I grew up in New London, so. Anyone else? All right, well, apparently, Chris, did you have something to say? And there are refreshments, I understand.
Yes, there's definitely refreshments. Erin, I just wanted to do this presentation. So I just wanted to thank Bob very much. He's being very humble, but he's worked really, really hard on this presentation. I think it showed. So just another round of applause for him. And also true about Jill. Jill really did a lot of the heavy lifting. I want to thank them both for all their efforts in doing that. And I thank you all for coming this evening. We do have some refreshments because at the library we always have refreshments on important occasions. And I did want to share with you, we got something special in the mail today. It's a certificate from Senator Richard Blumenthal.
Who, by the way, was here last year. We got to meet him, as did Rob Roll.
He did stop by last year when we got 2 federal grants, which was exciting. So Senator Richard Blumenthal, Connecticut, Certificate of Special Recognition, presented to the Waterford Public Library in honor of your 100th year serving the Waterford community by providing convenient public access to vital information and services. It's dated today, May 20th, oh actually that's Saturday, day of the fair, May 20th, 2023, by Senator Richard Blumenthal. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. And as mentioned, we do have the fair on a Saturday, and as part of the fair, we have a giant book sale. So I hope you will come and bring your friends and shop. It was going to be outdoors on the lawn. It's now going to be down here on the lower level. Music will be in this room, as Jill mentioned. But the book sale will be going on throughout the whole time from 10 to 2. So I hope you guys can make it. I also hope you'll stay and have a piece of cake with us.
And I just wanted to say we're involved in strategic planning this year, and we're going to be trying to elicit ideas from the community. So if you have any thoughts about where you'd like to see the library going in the near future, be sure to let us know.
We're starting our next 100 years, so we appreciate the input. So thanks very much.
Thank you.